Hello, everybody, and welcome to my Ascension Messages. My name is Bobby Richardson, and I will be your guide for today. So I'm going to channel through some information from Humanities Collective. And if you don't understand what the collective is or means, it's like watching the whole of humanity from above and then seeing it as one entity. It's like if somebody had a business and then there's all these different people in the business, but to get an overview of what the business, where the business is really going, you have to see it as a collective, as a one business. And then you read it like that, but then you can hone in on individuals in the business and see where it's actually going to school with and what person's, adding to the flavor and what person's not. Yeah, and I really felt this pull recently to tap into humanity's consciousness because of these massive changes that are coming. I mean, we are all going through them anyway. If you haven't already realized it, anyone who's watching me would have felt that there's something mysteriously strange going on within humanity's collective, where the truths are coming out more, but there's still a feeling of needing to stand up or have a backbone or push forward. There's a feeling that's coming through, and there's something of a gift where some people will see things as a gift coming their way because they've done so much work within themselves. And so because of that work and their uplift of who they are and recognizing that they are creating their own reality, becoming the central point of their existence, no longer blaming others, allowing things to flow a lot more, feeling into the vibrational meat of nature, all that sort of thing, that is the force that's taking us towards oneness. To know thyself again from the perspective of love, and that will allow the soul to be felt again, or allow ourselves to be felt again. And when we feel again, and we're no longer denying feelings, or we're no longer belittling feelings, we will have this understanding of what feelings actually truly mean to you. And when they're pulling away, when you are actually pulling away from oneness or love of self, and when you are moving towards it, and seeing the synchronicities that happen and the flow that happens between the outside reality of signs coming in, coincidences, people just turning up, people just shifting in your reality. When you stay central and come back to self, then all of a sudden other people start to act differently around you. And it's like we're all going through this massive push and pull of what it feels like to be apart from oneness or love of self, or the soul, and what it feels like to be acknowledging that and in unity of that and in flow of life and acceptance that all is of your creation. When that starts to happen, and because of this push-pull, there's going to be this shift of energy that's going to wash over humanity's consciousness, where more of the soul will come in. And if you're already fighting that soul, you're already fighting your feelings, you're fighting life, then you're going to find much more resistance, a lot more resistance. They keep on bringing me to the hand that I drew with the hourglass. And the breaking up of one society, of a very imbalanced society where we're just building on building on buildings, and literally our life was just like covering up stuff that we didn't want to look deep within ourselves. And it's formed like this many layers of the onion. within our own psyche of trying to cover up things with other stories and other stories. And it's literally how we've been building our reality of story upon story upon story. And that's literally why they're bringing me to the word story. When we come into a hotel, we have, you know, the first story, the second story, third story, because there are cities underneath cities as well. It's not just the building blocks of our reality, but everything is in reflection of ourselves. And so we've been building stories upon stories to create something, but it's because we keep on hiding the first initial story, because the stable story of humanity's consciousness was of an absolute power and absolute strength and absolute magnificence of bringing in this imagination that could literally take us anywhere. And that side of us, the imagination, become quite big to the point where it started to overconsume itself, because there was an imbalance of not understanding the practical nature of nature, of things, the practical nature of things. So they keep on bringing me to the fact that we are now, as that hourglass is showing, the breaking up of all the stories that we even had within our own consciousness, life after life after life, covering up something that we didn't really want to look at, the power of who we are, the magnificence of who we are, breaking it all down. And when we get to that core essence, which some of us, a lot of us that have done this work, we are breaking it down to the core essence of who we are and where our soul has been, what has our soul's journey been on, and the feelings that come with that are new to. It's like it's like a feeling of going home, or a feeling of understanding that there is a place like that in your reality, but it's not in this life. And so those, especially that are light workers, or people with souls that have just come straight from high benevolence, or ones that held on to a lot of codes life after life and understood a lot more and kept that side of themselves awake and aware throughout their lives, they are waking up even more. And when they do, they're going to get these feelings that wash over them of remembrance. Oh my God, I remember that feeling. That feeling feels so good. And it's because it's of a higher frequency, where they love themselves, where they were powerful, where we were magnificent in our own right, and we were creators. But coming back into the human psyche, and bringing me back to its humanity's collective, is bringing me back to the human psyche. And then being born as a human, we have this ability to imagine and take all of those lives and imagine even something absolutely incredible, like a massive playground for us to all practically play in, and with the logic having to meet the intuitive side at equal terms. Has to be just as powerful. And so to be able to ground all of this uniqueness and new stories and everything, the logic has to be just as powerful, but also has to be in unity with the imaginative side. So now we've come out of the fact that we've seen the power of the logical side. We've seen the power of the masculinity of everything. We've also seen how it can overbear and take over our lives and keep us in a very limited state, because it doesn't know how to shift the story. So it just keeps on building another story on top of another, and we keep on repeating the same problem over and over and over again. Life after life after life, we you could pass over, and then you come back and go, well, I haven't learned that lesson. But instead of looking at the story with feeling and finding out who you truly are as that magnificent person, many of us have just created another story to cover over top of it. So right at this very moment, humanity's consciousness is literally breaking up all of these stories. And in breaking up the story, we are changing history too. So his story is being changed, because his story could only pull one story up over top of another. It could never shift anything. It had to let go enough for us to feel again. And when we start feeling again, that's frightening. It's kind of vulnerable. It's like a position of, oh my God, I have to face the fact that I've been treating my children harshly out of reactions rather than, and just saying to myself, that's the norm, that's how it should be, rather than giving them the support that they need to shine their light, to become big, bright. To face the fact that you've actually treated loved ones with disrespect just because of your own disrespect, or belittling them because you were scared that they wouldn't fit into the story that you've created. So there's a lot of vulnerability that's happening with humanity at the moment, and it's a very I can feel this kind of like heart palpitation. I don't have heart palpitations at the moment, but it's a feeling like that, where it's shaky. So humanity's consciousness is in this kind of shaky field of rediscovering their feelings at the moment, and to rediscover something that powerful, the power of who they truly are, when we really get to the core, or tear away all the layers of the stories that we've pulled over us, and we get to this core essence of, oh my God, I am just love going on a journey. I forgot how magnificent, how powerful, how beautiful I am. And I trusted that person outside of me to tell me that I was less than what I know I am to be. So humanity is going through this massive shift at the moment, and it is feeling very wobbly. A breaking up of all of the stories. All of his stories. A breaking up of all of his stories. History. Because all of that history that's happened from a very unbalanced place, where we never allowed feelings to navigate or lead us or guide us, we repressed a lot. It created a very warped reality. So when we come back to the power of who we are, and we realize that we've actually created all of that ourselves as well, and we're all part of this human consciousness, this humanity's collective. We're all part of it. There's an essence within all of us that has an understanding that something is wrong, and the wrongness is literal insanity, literal the logical brain taking over and trying to shift a story. It doesn't work that way, because the only way you can shift a story is to return back to feeling who you are, and allowing you to use your imagination without fear. Because as soon as you use your imagination with fear, which has literally been a program pulled over humanity's consciousness, fear your imagination. Don't go there. You're too airy-fairy. When we move through our life with this fear of our imagination, we are then creating a path of fearing our power, of fearing changes, fearing changing the story. And so we try to keep it the same and similar. And then in the end, all we end up getting is a lot of people moving through life trying to fit into societal norm that is similar. And so the uniqueness within us is dulled, and we don't feel powerful. And then we are literally trying to shift. They showed me this afternoon or this morning too, when I was driving around, this like a path, and on the path, say you're walking, and each step you're taking, you're saying to yourself, well, I must be aware, I must be careful that I take the right step. I must be careful that I look the right way. I must be careful that I sound the right way, so that I can survive this. I can get to the end, which is the end target of, wow, I survived another life. But that's not what humanity is here for. Humanity is here to expand, to grow, to push limits, to try new things, to explore their imaginative side, to find value in change. And sometimes that change, they might not feel comfortable with it, and then you can pull back to yourself and go back to a central point and go, okay, that doesn't feel very good. I'm not going to go down that path. I'm going to shift my story and go towards what makes me feel better over here. So there sometimes is this wavery kind of a feeling about it, but they're showing me this path again, this person trying to be exactly as the storyline tells us to go, so that we don't step outside of the box, and we are creating our own limitations through other people enforcing power over us. It's been all of us, it's all been us to begin with, creating the limitations that ended up creating the person that's going to reflect back to us a law enforcement, the limitations poured over us, that we have to walk this straight line. So we've literally given our power to the contents of just a straight and narrow life, and it's become boring, and it's become like robotic, and that's why humanity's consciousness asked for help. And when they asked for help to get out of the same story that just keeps on going down the same path, that allowed for these beautiful souls that have come from higher frequencies, that feel freer because they are only moving through their life through love, to be born into humanity's consciousness, and that we are freeing ourselves from the inside out because of these beautiful star beings like myself and many others that have been born into this body, so that we can use our imagination, and we can shift the story first to peel back all the layers of our own history, so that we can find that we can feel again. And when we can feel again, we start to feel the beautiful vibrations that's come from our dimensions, our planets, our places that we lived within the higher frequencies of love. And then, as well as that, we now have the scope of being able to use our amazing imagination, because that's what humanity's consciousness has had the gift of all along, this beauty of the imagination. And so now we can start to learn to ground. And many of the star workers, or the souls that have come straight from these higher frequencies, have gone the other way around. Instead of most of the norm of people are born in a physical world, and they navigate all of life through this physical program, and then they slowly, as we've been moving towards feeling more, doing the shadow work and breaking down all of the practicalness of themselves to find their beauty within themselves through feeling and using their imagination again. But many of the souls that have come straight from other planets and other dimensions have actually come from, when they're born into a human body, actually already moving through the energy of life, seeing life from an energetic point of view. And so they probably would have been ostracized or belittled because they saw life in a different way. And now we are doing the opposite. We're learning to ground what we really want to ground on this planet. So we're learning how to build businesses. We're learning how to ground our imagination and where we could actually take this, and find finding within our own self-support, learning who we are and supporting who we are, allowing acceptance to come our way in the form of material, in the material world. So that means that those that have come here to help guide you will you'll probably see a shift of them starting to become more in value, more have businesses that they've pulled together. The value could come in many forms. It doesn't have to come in monetary form. Money's just a tool. It's not abundance in the sense of oneness. Oneness is always looking for adventures. So it could be in the form of, well, they seem to be able to be free enough to travel wherever they want, or they seem to have been able to find love so easy now, and yet they had all those that trouble before. And so things that their wishes and desires are starting to come true. So that's because the shift in humanity's consciousness is starting to spark into creating or allowing an expansion of awareness, an expansion of creating something new in this world. So that means that we're not just the same as everybody else walking down the street, trying to put ourselves into line so that we're making sure we don't step out of line. And we've literally created these powerful people as our gods, because we didn't see the God within ourselves, that we are the ones that are creating it. And this is where that vulnerableness is coming, where we're starting to peel away such rawness of ourselves and understanding that we are the creators. From the inside out, how we feel about ourselves is literally going to create the outside reality. And we're only just playing in that at the moment, just trying little bits. That's because things come in waves, and to hold on to that all the time at the moment would be very difficult, because they're showing me a pulse. Humanity's consciousness is showing me a pulse, and the pulse is the heartbeat of humanity's consciousness, moving from the left logical side of the self to the imaginative, intuitive side of self and back again. And because we don't want to all move into this higher frequency and then find that there's no material world to play in, that we're all etheric and ghost-like, or not living in this practical world anymore. We want to bring our imagination and ground it into the practical world, so that we have a bigger playground to play in. But this has to be done through no fear. This has to be done from the love of self, and in recognizing that all is a reflection of only ourselves. We will see that love expand more and more the more that we do the shadow work, peel away the layers, start to recognize the story that we created, and the stories on the stories on the story that we created. And then bringing it back to, okay, we're breaking all those stories down. We've now got one stable, block to create a new story. But to be able to create a new story, you don't want just a square block like the building was created on before. We want to branch out and try something different. So even breaking down that stability of humanity's consciousness, and then grounding ourselves into the Earth's playground. And the Earth's playground is a sphere. And then allowing trees and the connection to plants to become more and more and more, so that we can actually unite again and get a lot more value out of wisdom, of being able to connect telepathically and understanding a lot more of what plants, which is another essence of the soul, in another form of living, and we're all just souls in different forms of living, wanting to enhance everybody's life, because the tree knows that within the essence of itself, its whole self is the insects, the worms, the dirt, the sky, the sun, the wind, the rain. It's everything. It's not just, it's just that that's the pull of that love or that self is, and from our perspective as human looking at it in a limited way, it's just a tree. But when we really feel into the tree, it's not just the tree itself. It is also much, much, much more than that. It is a community of roots entangled with other roots, and earth itself, and having a fuller awareness of itself than what we've ever thought a tree could have. And we could only see a tree as just a physical object, just like all other animals and so forth, just as a physical object, because that's all we saw in ourselves. We didn't see ourselves as a collective working together energetically. This is all new. This is all a new playground that we're starting to understand. So there's just this whole brand new scope that's happening. And because of this, 2024, they keep on bringing up 2024 with me to 2026, but big time 2024 of communication, more communication happening between humanity and benevolence and love of self, and being gifted way more if you've done the shadow work, if you've actually worked on yourself and who you are, and brought back more and more and more of your essence of you in a higher state of awareness, which you always were, but you just blocked it out because you wanted to be on, walking that alley or that pathway just with everybody else. So I keep on just make sure that I walk this way and I talk this way and I look this way, then I'm going to be fine. It's our actual uniqueness that will spark our soul within us. And then the spark of that, other people will see that spark. And that's when they go, whoa, how did she get to be so happy? And yet she's so unusual and so different and so forth. And then they go, wow, maybe I can stretch my imagination out a little bit and not have to keep draw inside the lines sort of thing. Draw my life inside the lines. So they're also bringing me to when I did a vision quest, and I was taken into a higher dimension, and there was a river underneath a bridge which was representing the flow of life of these fish that were dying or dead. And then this little Pleiadian innocent boy could put out his hand, and then the fish could come alive and swim under the bridge. And they're showing me that swimming under the bridge is literally allowing our imagination to filter through to our logic, and asking our logic to change the story into something completely. Please accept this change of my story. Please accept this change of my story. I do not want to be thinking self-doubt and self-loathing thoughts anymore. So I would love for my logical side to start to let go enough to accept this new story that I am going to carve from the love of myself, and knowing that just saying those things repetitively to myself is going to change neuron paths in my brain. It's going to change, it's going to shift. And then when we change neuron paths in our brain to create something completely new within us, we start to see that story develop outside of us. And then we start to see the receiving, being able to receive again, because we realize that anything that comes our way is because of who we are at the essence of ourselves, and that's true abundance. The other monetary abundance, logical abundance, can be taken away from you at any given moment. So you could become rich and poor within the next day. But this abundance is coming from the essence of who you are and how you feel about yourself. So Humanities Collective is wanting as many of us to see this value within ourselves, so that we can create or carve this new beautiful story of true value that everything outside of us is only going to ever reflect the magnificence of who we truly are, and that we majority of humans move through this world trying to do the best that they can. They just limited themselves so that they feel that they could fit into a story that was never theirs to begin with. It was a warped story. It was a disadvantaged story. And all of those that were perpetrators were only your reflection of you denying your magnificence. So ride the waves using each story that turns up in your mind as a guide to deeper suppressed feelings that want to show you where you forgot how to love yourself. And the whole reason why most people feel insane, and most of us do, if you wake up in the morning and you have negative thoughts and then you bring them back to positive thoughts and then your negative thoughts, it's insanity. The true essence of humanity is in a much more loving vibration, much more acceptance, much more love. True value of humanity's consciousness is in balance of itself and moving through life as like a dance. So most of us do feel insane throughout the day. You know, there's these niggles and depressions, and then we come back and then we're fine again, and then we go back into the story of, oh no, God, what happens if that happens? And I'm going to have to do this way otherwise, and I don't really want to do that, and why should I? And all these like insane thoughts, really, honestly. But the reason why this feels insane is because the right feminine hemisphere is saying, I want to expand into unlimited potential. But the left masculine hemisphere is saying, this is the only way. And the left logical side of ourselves only sees one way. It's only going to be one way that it goes. And so we can't expand by just doing a limited story. We cannot. It'll just keep on repeating the same story over again, just a little bit different, but always the same outcome, where we feel dissatisfied. And we feel dissatisfied because we're not allowing the right hemisphere of the soul, the feelings within ourselves, to expand into this unlimited potential. Anyone who's trying to guide us and keep us small is because of their own fear of losing their power. But they never had that power to begin with, because that power was only that power was relying on you staying small. So they never had the power to begin with, because in the eyes of source energy, we are all magnificent. We are all beautiful, love going on a journey. And so when we allow somebody to pull the wall over us, if you see, like, if we allow someone to push us around and tell us that that's the only way that you can do something, because they've put a rule here and a sign here and a blockage here and you have to only do it that way, then humanity's like trying to find ways out of that by trying to stay on that same straight path. And we cannot. We have to expand our imagination, allow our souls to come and feel our feelings, see where we really want to go, and say to our universe that we want that story to come in, that we want to create that new story. There's another thing that I actually wrote down, and I think that this is a really good one. I'll pull it up on my phone. They call it a universe because you are the central existence of your universe, or your one vibrational story, because uni means one and verse is a vibrational story. It is a story that is written in the lyrics of songs. It is vibration plus a story. Therefore, you can only choose to change your story by changing your perspective, living through acceptance that there is way more to your story. And how do we even find way more to our story? Come full circle, we learn to use our imagination again. And we are not taught how to use our imagination in schools because we are taught to ignore it, because our imagination was held hostage by those in charge that wanted us to have a very limited reality, because it's way easier to control somebody who is feeling lack of and feeling limited in themselves and looking for answers only outside themselves and never really trusting who they are. So humanity's consciousness at the moment is really waking up. The whole of us is starting to realize that something has gone squiff. But we cannot look at the story through just logic anymore. We have to embrace our intuition. We have to embrace our imagination. We have to embrace our feelings, we have to embrace all those things that were shut down within us from so long, so many eons, so many lifetimes of living the story of feeling less than. So I'll just see if there's anything else that's coming through from humanity's consciousness. There's definitely a new understanding being developed, and we cannot create the same story. We can't create the same story by using the same limits as what we've been trying to use to carve a new story. It doesn't work. So we have to start looking outside the box. We have to start seeing that we can actually collectively come together and communicate through the power of frequency that's shifting us into loving ourselves more. Yeah. A bird singing. I don't know if the microphone will pick that up. Little babies are being born outside. Okay. So I think I'll wrap it up here, and thank you so much for being part of this journey. Don't forget, I go live on Tuesdays. Until next time, bye.